Good afternoon or good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Off the Bench. We have got something different for tonight. We've got a current New South Wales player on the pod. So he made his debut for the Blues back in 2014 and for the Thunder in BBL 4. Made his Shield debut late last year, picking up a fifer as well. Um, Welcome to the pod, Chris Green.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, so I guess first of all, we'll just touch base on how your game's going at the moment because I watched the game today and you were looking pretty handy there with the bat with a nice handy 59 not out today.
Yeah, it was nice to get a red inker. I had a lot of fun out in the middle, batting with Jason Sanger, something that at the Thunder Nation I don't get too much opportunity to do, given that he bats 3 and I bat 7 or 8, unless he bats all the way through. So it was nice to spend the time in the middle with him and then have some fun towards the end as we batted for a declaration.
Yeah, and picked up a wicket as well, and you've got him nicely positioned at the moment. Got him 5 down at stumps, which is you guys are in a pretty good position to win the match at the moment.
Yeah, look, I think if you asked us if we for this position at the end of day 2 before it started, we'd absolutely jump at it. The game can move quite slowly at times on this SCG wicket, and then I think as we get into day 3, late in day 4, even the game could start moving quite quickly as it's quite dry out there, and we've had a hot day 1, day 2, so there is a few footmarks that hopefully myself and Adam Zampa can start exploiting over the next couple of days.
And Sean Abbott just in fine form again, Chris, carrying on his BBL form nicely through to the form for New South Wales, mate. He's just been outstanding so far this season.
He's been fantastic. He's arguably in career best form the last 12 to 18 months, and he's had some good success when he's got those small opportunities to play for Australia in one day and T20 cricket, and I think there's going to be more and more opportunities for him going forward the way he's bowling, and he obviously offers a bit with the bat and in the field as well. So yeah, it's great to have him on my team rather than against me.
And a shining light in what was a pretty ordinary game for Australia against India, Todd Murphy, he was just absolutely lethal in that game. He looked brilliant. Picked up some key wickets. Rahul, Virat Kohli, a couple other big scalps in there as well. What a journey for him. He's played like 6 games of cricket and been called up to the Australian team. Like, were you surprised by his pickup? Because from what I've seen from him so far, I think he's brilliant. I like what I see from him, and he's really the future of Australian cricket.
Yeah, look, I think yes and no. Surprised that they picked him and went with 2 off spinners, but not surprised that he went well. I think he's a good bowler. I'd spent 4 weeks bowling with him at spin camp in 2019, and he really impressed me then when he was, I guess, raw and bursting onto the scene in second 11 cricket and under 19 cricket for Victoria. And I think he's going to be a great replacement already showing for Nathan Lyon. I think it's hard to say this, but I think he's going to be a better bowler in Asian subcontinental conditions than Nathan Lyon, because he can bowl that flatter trajectory and square ball that we see a lot of the Indian bowlers bowling, and he's already having success in Australia as well. So with Nathan at age 36 and Murphy in his early 20s, I think there's a nice little replacement opportunity there, and it'll be interesting to see the direction they go in if he continues bowling as well as he is.
Yeah, and then I see today too that Mitch Swepson's on his way back home, or soon to be, for his wife's about to have a baby, and Matt Kuhneman could get his chance to debut as well. Another upcomer who's been absolutely outstanding this year for the Bulls in the Shield in particular, was good for the Heat in the BBL as well. What do you make of Kuhneman's pick?
Yeah, look, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he comes straight in to the side over there with the left-handed option, spinning the ball away. He bowls that faster, flatter trajectory, and I think if he gets picked and bowls the same way he's been bowling in the Big Bash, then he could prove a handful as well. He obviously did all right in those 1 days that he played for Australia previously, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes straight in. Who for? I don't know. Stark's on his way over as well, so you'd imagine Stark probably comes in for Boland, and I would see Head coming in for Renshaw, and it could actually be Kuhneman for Murphy, and it is a tough selection there. But the fact that Head can offer something with the ball a lot more than Renshaw can, and it allows you to bring Kuhneman and have the ability to take the ball away from a lot of their right-handers as well. So yeah, it creates a few selection options and headaches for Australia. But I think they need to look to start winning that test match and picking the 11 that they think's going to beat India in that next test.
Yeah, I'm going to say I thought it was a bit of an odd selection leaving out Travis Head, given he had the left arm spin option too. Don't know whether they could have might have regretted making that decision, but I guess his form in the subcontinent hasn't been great with the bat either for Travis Head. Probably didn't help the cause, but hopefully they make the right changes for the next game.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. Particularly, it's been so long since he was last over there, and you could say the same about Kawaja as well. He initially was the guy who they saw as couldn't play spin, and he worked at it and is now arguably one of the best batters against spin. He's matured and worked on his game, and Head's the number 4 ranked test batter in the world at the moment for a reason. So you've got to reward form, and I was very surprised to see Renshaw picked over him. I think the Hanscom selection for Cameron Green was a pretty good one, having that extra right-hander in the middle and the way he plays spin, and he showed he could do well in that first innings there as well. So I was very surprised, and I think Renshaw will be out, Head in, as I said, next test.
Yeah. So you were born in South Africa, I believe, and you moved over here in your 20s. What made you make the move over to Australia? I guess you could have had some opportunities to play over there, I'm sure as well.
Yeah, I moved a lot younger. I moved over when I was 7, so it was a family decision. Dad was working. I was born and raised in Durban, and in 2001 we moved over. Dad was asked to move to Joburg for work, and him and Mum didn't see that as the best place to raise a young family from a progression point of view, just on the trajectory South Africa was on in terms of opportunity for for white people moving forward. They've got a quota system in their schools, education, sport, and everything. So there was that, and there was also a safety aspect as well. So fortunately, Dad got an opportunity to move over to Australia, and Mum and Dad fell in love with Sydney on a trip to think about the decision, and we found ourselves here 18 months later after they came out on holiday and fell in love with Sydney. So it was a whirlwind trip, and with Mum having an English background, and my brother and I being on English passports, there was a time in 2016 where I was really close to signing a professional cricket contract with an English county and declaring myself English just for opportunity. But the Big Bash and my success in T20 cricket made me hold off on that, and the journey that I've gone on, everything happens for a reason, and I found myself with that professional contract later in my life. But it came through success in T20 cricket in Australia and around the world.
So you've played a lot of cricket around the world. You've played Caribbean Premier League. You've played in the IPL. You've played a bit of county cricket as well. Tell us about some of your experiences playing in some of those overseas grounds and some of the players that you've played against.
Yeah, it's been pretty surreal, and it's been a great fast track of my development, I believe. I still remember my first overseas league was in the Pakistan Super League at the time where cricket wasn't still in Pakistan. So I was in Dubai. I flew over, first ever business class flight, and I landed in there, woke up jet lagged the first morning, went down to breakfast, and Shane Watson, who I was playing with at the Thunder, he was over there playing for another side, and he asked me to come down to breakfast with him. We flew over together, and we sat at the table together, and at that same table was Kumar Sangakkara, Mahela Jayawardena, Brendan McCullum, who was in my team, and Kevin Peterson, Shane Watson, and myself. So it was an amazing breakfast. I sort of sat there, mouth open, taking it all in. I was amazed that all these guys that I'd idolized growing up, playing so much cricket, dominating world cricket, knew who I was for one, and were interested in me and my life. And I remember going back to my room and calling mum and dad saying, I think I got off the plane in the wrong spot. This is completely surreal. But, just sitting there, absorbing, listening, learning was such a great experience. And, as I go along in my career, it's those experiences that I've had with the likes of Kevin Peterson, the Shane Watson, Mike Hussey, Brendan McCullum, those types of players. And I can list so many without, name dropping. But having to play with and against, and the beauty of these tournaments where you stay with one another. So, you share stories, you have that ability to ask questions about your career, about their career, and learn. And that them being at the back end of their career, they're so open to providing knowledge. So I think drawing upon those 180 or whatever T20 games I've played has helped me perform in my first class debut and early first class career at the moment.
So I guess I've got to ask, who was probably your most inspirational person to go to that got you into cricket and got you to the bowler that you are, and the batter too? Because as we've seen, you're very handy with the bat as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, look, I'd probably have to say it was my dad initially. He was the one that, mum and dad both pushed me into all sports. I learned to walk on a tennis court. Mum and dad both played professional tennis, played at Wimbledon. So tennis was firmly the number one sport for me growing up. And then I played all sports: cricket, soccer, swimming, running, athletics. And then I think it was, soccer sort of fell by the wayside in year 8 when mum was like, look, I can't keep driving you around all the time. You've got to decide if this is where you want to go, or pick 2 sports at least. And, worked out I played tennis all year round, and then cricket would take a little bit more preference in the summer. So dad initially pushed me into cricket. Mum drove me around and scored and managed a few teams for me. And then, I idolized Jacques Callis growing up. I initially started as a medium pacer in the game. As we spoke about before we started chatting, I used to wicket keep a little bit as well. And then I was a batter mainly, and, my medium pace was very, very part-time, and I found I wasn't getting much of a bowl, and we didn't have any spinners in the team. So I chose the easy version, which was clearly off spin rather than leg spin, just to get more of a bowl and be more involved in the game when I was 12 years old, and just developed it from there, becoming a pretty flat, darty off spinner. And as I progressed forward into my mid-20s and then late 20s, working with Anthony Clark, trying to become a little bit more adaptable, particularly, after coming back from my ban and bowling ban, I feel like I'm a better bowler for it because of the changes I made to my action just from being that flat, one-dimensional, darty off spinner. It has now allowed me to be a little bit more the conventional type and have a lot more control in the different formats and different conditions in Australia and around the world.
I've got to ask you, how hard was that when you'd been pulled up for your action? I can't imagine you would have been something that's pretty easy to take. I mean, I remember watching you play for the Thunder, and you were getting picked as a specialist batter. Um, Tell me, how did you get yourself through that? I can't imagine that would have been something easy to go through.
Yeah, it was real tough. It was a massive shock. The year leading up to it, 2019 was probably, prior to the last 12, 18 months, was the best year and most consistent year of my career. And I spent 4 weeks, as I spoke about before, with Todd Murphy, but we had a spin camp up in Brisbane at the academy. We were filmed all day, every day for 4 weeks bowling. Not one person. There were sports scientists there. Coaches from all the states, high performance coaches there. Not one person mentioned anything about my action. We were watching it back in slow-mo, my bowling. I didn't pick up that anything was looking wrong. All the coaches didn't say anything. No one had mentioned anything. I travelled out, played well in England for the Birmingham Bears, Canada, CPL, came back, started the Big Bash really well, got picked up in the IPL auction. We won the T10 before the Big Bash, and then the beginning of January, I get this call from our general manager at the Thunder saying, "You've been reported for a legal action. You need to go get tested." I didn't really know where it came from, as I sort of said. So I went and got tested, and took my coach with me, and had clearly seen that my technique had slipped. And that was the big thing I learned, that my basic technique through playing a lot of cricket had fallen by the wayside. And it's natural to do. You sort of get excited. You want to keep playing cricket, keep focusing on the next game. And, the way it works, you have to replicate your action. And my technique in that particular game was really poor. I was leaning the wrong way. My legs weren't working well. And in replicating that action, I bowled 36 balls, and a couple of them were 1 or 2 degrees over, and you can't bowl any balls that are over the 15-degree limit. So, to the human eye, it's nothing, but it picks it up, and that forced me out of the bowling. I couldn't then bowl for 3 months. And then at the back end of that, I was just about to fly up to Brisbane. I'd done a practice test, passed the practice test, fly up to Brisbane for my test in a week, and then that COVID curtain came down in 2020, so it pushed my test back another 3 months. But the positive side of it, and I actually look back on my time out of the game once I came to terms with the initial missing of cricket. I look back on that 6 months in the end until I got cleared was the best thing for me. As I alluded to there, it and I think COVID taught everyone that the importance of stopping, being really present with where you are, enjoying, the company of those around you. But for me, in a cricket sense, was ensure that I need to stop, reflect on what's happened, what's going well, what I need to work on, and let's really work on the basics and stress the importance of basic technique for not only my bowling, but my batting, my fitness, my body, everything. And that's something that, I take forward with me now from that learning experiences. Every opportunity I get, let's look at the basics of my technique, because when I have those basics going well with bat, ball, field, body, then I'm in the best place to be successful on the field and continue doing what I'm doing. And, it avoids me having to go through those circumstances again, but it gives me the best chance of being successful as well.
So you feel like you've become a better person, a better player out of all this from this whole thing that's happened? I mean, I think I wouldn't say your bowling's improved, but you're definitely, bowling really, really well. So do you feel like that sort of helped you?
Yeah, 100%. I think, for me, the justification results wise wasn't something that I initially sought, but it's obviously nice to get and see. And I think going to the Caribbean Premier League was the first tournament I played in, and I recorded, well, not necessarily career best figures, but I bowled 4 overs, 1 for 3 in my 3rd game back from my ban,
And you took
a really nice accolade. And then what's that?
And you took a hat trick in a T20 Blast game too, didn't you?
Yeah. And then went on to England and got my best figures, got my first fifer and got a hat trick. And, then went back to the Caribbean last year and replicated 4 overs, none for 3, and then had my best Big Bash this year. So I certainly believe it's made me a better bowler. It's got me picked in my first class game. I got bowled well in the one-dayers. So, it's nice to get those result rewards, but it's not something that I'm seeking. I think that's more nice a justification for the hard work that I've put in, and also stresses the importance of maintaining and continue to put in that hard work to give myself the chance of remaining consistent and the best opportunity to be successful moving forward with, as I said, ball, bat, field, because that seems to be working as my process so far.
My brother actually did a bit of work with sports science, believe it or not. He lives over in Amsterdam at the moment. He's did a lot of work with the AIS in Canberra. Knows Nathan Lyon pretty well. Good mates with him. He did do a similar thing where he used to do some work with the bowlers on their actions and stuff like that as
Yeah.
well. He was actually a leg spinner himself. So you may have done some work with him over in time, possibly. I'm not too sure,
I
but
was going to say, I did go when we were in Canberra during my ban. I did go to the AIS to chat with someone there who used to be a part of it all, and they used to have the equipment. So it could well have been him.
it may have been him. May have been.
Small world.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of traveling around the world, as we know. So what's your favourite country, favourite ground, favourite food that you like to eat outside of Australia?
Wow. Favorite ground is probably Lords, and I say probably it's definitely the history of it to play there as a home ground and train there, go to the gym there, walk around. I lived in Hyde Park when or just off Hyde Park when I was playing for Middlesex, and then to play at Lords, particularly against Surrey in the local derby, to have a pack out Lords there. Beautiful weather in the English summer. I found myself not drifting, but probably you'd say zoning out and just pinching myself on the field in the moment, being like, wow, this is incredible. I'm playing cricket at Lords in front of a full house in the height of summer, and that was really, really cool. But the atmosphere all around the world. I was one of the first players to go back and play cricket in Pakistan, and I've never been thanked so many times by players, fans, everyone. So that was a really cool experience. It was meant to be Shahid Afridi's last game. So we did a lap of honour for him in Karachi, and I think he played for another 3 or 4 years after that. So that was a cool experience. Food, I love delving into anything really. I pretty much eat all meat. I don't eat seafood. I have a seafood allergy, so I like to try all local foods in the Caribbean, India, Pakistan, etc. You just get out of your comfort zone, try something new. And then what was the other one?
No, I think that was it. I was lucky enough, Chris, to go to Caribbean in 2007 for the Cricket World Cup, and I've got to say the supporters over there, unbelievable. They are just so into their cricket. They are just a bunch best blokes over there. Like, go and sit at the pub with them after the game, have beers with them. Was lucky enough to meet Viv Richards. Walked into the bathroom. I've got Joel Garner standing next to me. I'm looking up towards the roof, going, "Oh my god, how tall is this bloke?"
Yeah, no, they love it. I mean, they call the
yeah. Go on.
Yeah, they call the Caribbean Premier League the biggest party in sport, and it genuinely is. But they the thing that surprised me was just their passion and knowledge for cricket, and it was so cool to be a part of. So I can definitely reiterate that.
Sitting at the pub for hours after the game, talking to these blokes, drinking beer, and just they're just such a nice country over there. It really is just so late and so laid back too. Very laid back over there.
Yeah, no, it was good fun. Good people, as you say.
Yeah. No problem, Mann.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, I'm going to pass you over to Timmy now, who's probably got some questions for you. I'm sure you've got to go soon, but we'll get a few more minutes out if you don't mind. So
yeah, no stress.
Yeah.
Awesome, mate. And thanks again, mate, for coming on too. We really appreciate it, especially after just coming straight off the pitch. It's that's sensational. And really appreciate it, mate. And I'm sure the fans will as well. Mate, you met my young bloke before, and I didn't get to talk too much before the show, but I'm actually a high school teacher, PE major, although now I'm teaching furnishing and building and construction more than anything else. But mate, I'm an absolute sport tragic. If I can throw it, kick it, catch it, chuck it, I've had a crack at it basically. And now my young bloke that met before Bailey, he's much the same. And like we said, he's only just turned 8 and he started under 12s cricket and already doing all right. So, mate, some of these questions I like to throw out there so that it gets some of the fans that I'm used to hanging out with, some of the teenagers and up and comers of guys that are interested in different sports. So, look, that first one, mate, nice and easy. How old were you when you first picked up a cricket ball or cricket bat?
Oh, I think that's a good question. I think it was around. It wasn't it wasn't too much before I moved to Australia. So I think if I had to guess, it'd be about 5 or 6. My first memory of cricket was I must have just started either mucking around with Dad on the tennis court or in the backyard or maybe down at the nets. But I'm pretty sure I was at home, sitting on the couch. We were watching South Africa play, and it was Jacques Kallis batting. And he said, look, if you're going to start playing cricket, you need to model your game on this guy, the complete all-rounder, lovely gentleman as well. And that was where my hero status for him started. So it's pretty cool to then fast forward to my first professional contract with the Sydney Thunder, and I was over the moon and delighted to see that we'd signed Jack Ellis as our overseas player. So that was kind of a cool thing for me. And then the next year to play every game with him and then win the trophy. So he was the one that, along with Dad, that inspired me to play cricket. And yeah, that was my sort of first memory of it, is watching him on the couch with Dad, playing on the tennis court, and then, starting into, it was then Kanga cricket. And, I pretty much, like Bailey, got quite bored of playing with soft balls and asked Mum and Dad to go up and play ahead of my age and start playing, I guess, proper cricket, if you like it. But Kanga cricket was the first thing that started for me here in Australia.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. Just quietly, I'm a bit of a Jacques Kallis fan myself. It's
hard not to be.
Oh, mate, the guy could do everything. Could bat and bowl. He was good at fielding. He was just an all-round top bloke too. And by all accounts, like you were saying, he's actually a really nice guy. So
unbelievable.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Well, that takes out my next question, which was when you were playing cricket in the backyard as a kid, who did you want to be?
Yeah, Jacques Kallis.
Yeah, when I was younger, I always wanted to be Dean Jones. I thought Jonesy was just the coolest guy in the world. Had the zinc on and everything else. He was.
Yeah, the next one was Warney when whenever I tried to bowl leg spin, as everyone tries to bowl leg spin in the backyard, but far too many fullies, far too many drag downs to try and replicate the genius that was.
Oh, mate, amazing man, and absolutely sorely missed, that's for sure. Yeah. Did you ever get to play with him?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. He was quite a bit before my time. I think he was, I was BBL 04. I think he only played the first year or two of it. Got to chat with him a lot before and after games when he was commentating. He was very open to questions and fantastic in giving his time and insights into, the way I bowled the game, and fantastic cricket brain. So, that was the thing that I guess impressed me most, that he genuinely had time for anyone and was willing to help.
Yeah, awesome. And that in itself then probably brings me to my next question. Mate, what's the best piece of cricketing advice you've been given?
Make lots of mistakes. And it's probably the best advice that I could give anyone is have fun, but make lots of mistakes. And it's, it's not just going out trying to make mistakes, but the best thing about, I'm one that personally hates losing, but the best thing about making mistakes and losing is you have the opportunity to reflect and on what you did wrong and how you can do better and make that slight improvement moving forward. It's the same as at school. When you get 100% or 99%, it's pretty easy to gloss over things or search for that perfection. But when you get 80%, you look at your 20% of errors and, okay, well, how can I get 80% to 83% or 84%? And then how do I get 84% to 88%? And you sort of just learning from your mistakes and growing and I think reflecting on what went well, what didn't go quite so well, and how can you bring that little bit of lever consistency up into your next performance or next year or next few years.
Mate, that's great advice. I know even with Bailey's game yesterday, like he came off the pitch after he was batting and the first thing he looked at his coach and he said, "I'm sorry, I could have done better." And they said, "Oh my God, you've only just turned 8, mate, and you're playing in under 12s and you scored 10 runs." I think at that point he was probably the top run scorer in the team. So they were actually really impressed for exactly that, mate. They're wanting to improve. So that's some fantastic advice for up and comers. Mate, you said before you made your sort of cricketing transfer, I guess, in more later in life. So were the Thunder the first professional team that you actually signed for?
Yeah, so I played for New South Wales first in the one-dayers in 2014, and then it was sort of on the back of a good club year in first grade. My team, Northern Districts, won the first grade final. I got 5 for and 50 in the final, and I think it would have been then Steve O'Keefe and it probably would have been Nathan Lyon, actually, were away on national duties and they had a bit of a gap spinner-wise. So New South Wales gave me an opportunity, and then the Thunder had Nathan Horrocks. And they had another guy, a Hill and Beetle, who played a couple of games. So they sort of wanted to fill their last spot with me, I guess, after my performances with New South Wales and in that competition for Northern Districts as well. And so that was my first contract after playing, I think it was 3 or 4 one-days for New South Wales that season. I can't really remember. But yeah, so that was my first professional contract, 2014, with the Sydney Thunder.
Yeah, awesome. You said earlier that you played a bit of tennis and some soccer as a kid, mate. I'm 43 and I still go around playing over 35s for playing football. So, mate, I love it. It's just as much about keeping the brain healthy as it is the rest of the body healthy. So,
100%.
yeah, mate, I'm a mad soccer fan. Man United all the way. Mate, my next question. So, if you weren't playing cricket right now, or if you didn't decide to go cricket, you were saying you're pretty talented at other sports. Which other direction might have you gone?
Tennis. I made that decision really late in my life. I was 18, writing my HSC at school, and didn't really know which way to go. I started applying for colleges in America to give that pathway a crack rather. And then it was the thing that sort of did it for me was the team sport aspect of cricket. And, you know, I kind of look back on it. I probably felt that I was a better tennis player than cricket player, just based on, again, results at that age. But I was more drawn to team sports. I still am, but I was very competitive, but I was drawn to team sports. So it's probably a big part of why I like captaining teams as well. And being around people, I found tennis quite lonely, and you sort of get in your own head at times. But yeah, I'd say if I wasn't playing cricket, I would have given tennis a crack as best as I could. And, you know, if I wasn't a professional tennis player at the moment, then who knows? I've got an interest in the business world after doing a business degree at uni, and I really enjoyed management consulting. I did an internship at Deloitte in human capital consulting, which was basically going to other businesses and working on their people and culture. So I guess from a team aspect and people aspect, that's where the way my brain and works well and what motivates me well, and in a non-sport related thing is just being around good people and adding my value in how to make their teams better as well.
We had Chris Tremaine on a podcast with us a couple of weeks ago. I tell you what, that bloke, mate, I reckon he could talk the ear off anyone. He's just such a clever bloke, mate. Between him and Jimmy Neesham, those two blokes, mate, they are very clever blokes.
Yeah.
And they had some cracking stories too.
I'm sure you've got some stories on Chris Tremaine, because I know you played for New South Wales with him. He's a bit of a character.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He can definitely talk. I tell you that much. That's why we get home so late after the games, because his debriefs go the longest.
we got told a story by Timmy Neesham when they were playing in the BBL, because obviously Chris didn't get a game, but they did a 3-hour drive, and apparently the conversation going between the two of them was just all about all sorts of different subjects, like nothing to do with cricket.
Started talking about quantum physics, and like it was kind of like who made the world? Was it really Uncle Dick with a shovel and a pick, or like what was going on? Mate, that's an amazing general knowledge.
Yeah, he's got an amazing general knowledge base, Tram, but I don't know if it's all true or not, but he just says things that there's no chance people actually knowing, so you just believe it and take it for what it is.
And obviously you've done a lot of travelling. Take your clubs with you, mate. What do you like with the sticks?
Oh, always. That's the first thing. Pack the golf clubs. I love my golf. I'm actually career best handicap at the moment. I'm down to a 3.7. So and I've got a golf trip at the end of the season with all my mates, which is not really where you want to be. Is your career best. I usually try and have a little blowout to try and get an extra 1 or 2 to take their cash, but I may be struggling this year.
I gotta ask you one more thing. I watched the Thunder game against the Heat towards the back end of the season. Now, I've got to ask you, what did Matty Renshaw say to you for you to give him that little send off? Now, I'm pretty sure I can lip read Chris. I believe he may have called you a chucker. Is that correct?
I actually didn't hear him, so I wasn't sure, and that was why you sort of saw when they showed my face when he said something. I was trying to work out. I just said, "What did you say?" And then he just sort of head down and walked off, so I didn't hear him. But yeah, so who knows?
That's a very diplomatic answer, Chris. Well done, mate. You're lucky on this show we don't ask you questions like, can you actually coach and things like that. We're our guests than some of the NRL ones.
Actually, I will ask you quickly. Sorry, Tim. I will ask you quickly. Who's probably the best coach that you've played under? And it can be in any format, any team, whatever.
Gee whiz. It's hard to say. I don't think there's one exact genius coach, and that's not to say I've had terrible coaches. I think there's the best coaches adapt to the different teams and players that they have, and I think a Mann managers. I was really impressed by Brendan McCullum's style of captaincy, and when I played under him, and then coaching when I played under him in the IPL. He's obviously having great success with England, but I think that was the main thing that he did really well, was just man management and individual player management as well, which I think was really important. He used his assistants to do a lot of the leg work, and then he himself did a lot of small conversations with everyone.
Well, Trevor Baylor seems like a pretty good coach from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Been around for a while too, so he's very knowledgeable for the game. I think he did coach a bit for New South Wales too, didn't he, at some stage?
He was my first New South Wales coach when I made my debut. He's been fantastic. Very simple guy, keeps things very simple and encourages sort of player-led environment. So, it's important for the senior players to sort of step up and drive the direction that the group wants to go. And again, he's someone that has little conversations here and there with the players in the background.
He, I got to laugh at some of these interviews they do with him on the sideline sometimes during the season. They kept asking him, what's par? What do you think the par? I'm just like, why are you still asking this? You get the same answer every time.
Yeah, hates it. No, he's a good character, Trev. Very old school.
Yeah. You got anything else for him, Tim, before finish up?
I think that's about it. I think between the two of us, we've got through all the questions on my list, mate.
Well, Chris, we appreciate you coming on, especially after you just finished today's play of cricket.
No worries.
Good luck for the rest of the game. Good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully, you guys can get your first Shield win this round too, and
Me
good
too.
luck for the rest of the Shield season and also Marsh Cup as well. And thanks for your time.
No worries. Thanks, boys. Really enjoyed chatting. Have a good one.
Cheers. All the best. See you,
Thanks
mate.
very much, mate. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Bye.
I think that was good.
That was awesome, mate.